When it comes to one-on-one battles, it doesn't get much bigger than this. Welcome to WatchMojo, and in this installment of Versus, we're pitting Godzilla versus King Kong. Before we begin, we publish new content every day, so be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. In this showdown, two of cinema's biggest and most monstrous icons are going against one another to see who truly deserves the title King of the Monsters. We'll be looking at these two colossal contestants from a variety of angles, both in-universe and out, to see which creature reigns supreme. Will it be the King of Skull Island or the Atomic Terror of Tokyo? Let's find out. Round 1. Origin. The giant reptilian creature known as Godzilla is, at least in most of its incarnations, a horrifying byproduct of atomic testing. Following nuclear tests in the South Pacific, this ancient creature was reawakened and mutated by fallout from the tests, transforming it into an engine of pure destruction. Godzilla's story is built around post-World War II anti-nuclear sentiment, and its imagery and themes evoke the horrors of World War II, specifically the atomic bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. The original 1954 film's opening scene even references an incident that took place shortly before its release, in which a Japanese fishing vessel was contaminated by atomic fallout from nearby tests. Kong, meanwhile, is the last of a species of colossal apes, and reigns over a secluded island populated by other prehistoric survivors including dinosaurs, giant insects, and other such primordial nightmares.
Serve out the rifles! And the boats!
Worshipped as a god by the island's indigenous humans, Kong's somewhat peaceful life is interrupted by the arrival of an American film crew, or in the case of the 2017 reboot, by a covert government agency. Each Kong film has largely followed the same formula, albeit with a distinct flavor. The original film has been viewed as a condemnation of the exploitation of indigenous peoples, albeit one with some very, very dated racist overtones. It's hard to pick a winner in this case, as each franchise has had a number of different incarnations, each of which can be read and analyzed in different ways. But it's hard to argue with the powerful subtext lurking within the original Godzilla, which drew upon the then fresh memories of World War II, as well as the ongoing discussion around the safety of nuclear testing. Winner, Godzilla. Round 2. Powers and abilities. Being reptilian in nature, Godzilla has a host of natural abilities at his disposal, all of which make him an incredibly fierce opponent. His crushing jaws and powerful tail make him a deadly close-quarters combatant, and thanks to his natural aptitude for swimming, the big guy is arguably even more deadly underwater. In addition to all this, his body has been granted incredible strength and regenerative abilities thanks to atomic mutation, allowing him to shrug off attacks from guns, missiles, tank shells, and almost everything else you could throw at him. Finally, and most impressive, is Godzilla's atomic breath, a beam of pure destructive energy that has reduced numerous enemies to smoking heaps. Kong, meanwhile, relies more on his massive size and strength when it comes to combat, but don't count him out yet. Like all apes, he's extremely dexterous and agile, and his powerful arms and hands allow him to use tools and simple weapons in ways that other, more feeble-armed giant monsters can only dream of. For his 1962 brawl with Godzilla, Kong was also given electrical powers to help even the playing field. After receiving a jolt of electricity, Kong gained the ability to wield powerful electric shocks. He hasn't used this power since then, but we thought we'd mention it anyway because, hey, giant electric ape. While Kong is certainly an impressive specimen, we have no choice but to give this one to Godzilla as well. Especially when you factor in the ranged attacks his atomic breath grants him, it's just no contest. Winner, Godzilla. Round 3. Intelligence. But what good are fancy powers if you don't have the smarts to use them? When it comes to intelligence, Godzilla's depiction is a bit all over the map. In most instances, he's depicted as being driven by instinct and base cunning more than true intelligence. Then again, there was that time he spoke, so who can really say?
Hey, Akira, come on! There's a lot of trouble ahead.
More often than not, though, Godzilla's been depicted as a force of nature more than a thinking being. able to make only very basic decisions like fight that thing instead of those things. Kong, on the other hand, has displayed an aptitude for problem solving and the ability to use tools on a number of occasions. When squaring off against both Godzilla and the terrifying skull crawlers, he's made use of trees as weapons to gain the upper hand. He once even turned a boat propeller into a deadly flail. Kong can recognize individual humans and has shown himself capable of planning and strategizing. He even demonstrates enough intelligence to make a tactical retreat upon realizing that Godzilla's atomic breath puts him at a disadvantage.
It's more like fighting a flamethrower.
While Godzilla's no dummy, Kong clearly has a leg up on his adversary in the smarts department. With enough brainpower to use tools and weapons, his intelligence makes up for Godzilla's superior physical capabilities and wins him his first round. Winner, King Kong. Round 4, Special Effects. When people think of the special effects in Godzilla movies, they think of actors lumbering around on miniature sets in ungainly rubber suits. But as dated as some of the effects from classic Godzilla films look, especially when you get to the mid-70s, there's much more going on than meets the eye. For much of the classic era of Godzilla movies, the special effects were handled by the late great Eiji Tsuburaya, a man who has since been dubbed the Japanese god of special effects. Tsuburaya's work in miniatures, optical effects, and yes, monster suits is some of the best ever put to film, and we should respect his legacy, regardless of what the CGI era has made us accustomed to. Across the ocean and a few decades earlier, however, another special effects wizard was working his magic on King Kong. Kong's effects in the original film were handled by Willis H. O'Brien, whose work inspired Ray Harryhausen, Eiji Tsuburaya, and countless others. The way O'Brien was able to craft masterful stop-motion effects and miniatures, and then blend them with shots of real actors through camera trickery is a crucial piece of cinematic history. We'd also be remiss if we didn't at least mention the animatronics work that went into the 1976 remake. Sure, the full-size animatronic Kong built for the film didn't really work, but A for effort. This one is an extremely close race, as both Tsuburaya and O'Brien are towering figures in the field of special effects. But given O'Brien's legacy, the indelible mark he left on cinema history, and the fact that he inspired so many that came after, Eiji Tsuburaya included, this round goes to Kong, tying it up. Winner, King Kong. Round 5, Movies. The Godzilla franchise is one of the most prolific film series in all of cinema, with over 30 films and counting, adding up to one monster-sized series. There have been dozens of live-action movies, a series of anime films, and an ever-growing list of American remakes. Across decades worth of movies, Godzilla has fought and befriended giant magical moths, robot doppelgangers, three-headed space dragons, and more, making for a series with a spectacular amount of variety and more titanic monster battles than you can shake a very large stick at. Kong, meanwhile, has a somewhat more humble filmography. There's the 1933 original and its lesser-known follow-up, followed by Kong's brawl with Godzilla and a later solo movie in the late 60s. Later on, Italian movie mogul and producer Dino De Laurentiis attempted to revive the franchise with a 1976 remake that overhauled the concept for a modern age. This had its own easily forgotten sequel, and there was even a late 90s animated musical. Then in 2005, Peter Jackson unveiled his star-studded love letter to the original. And 12 years later, there was the action-heavy reboot Kong Skull Island. In terms of sheer quantity, Godzilla handily wins this round. Even though his original film is a part of movie history, Kong's franchise just can't hold up under the sheer volume and variety of Godzilla's film library. Winner, Godzilla. Do you agree with our picks? Check out these other great clips from WatchMojo, and be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.